Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another very special Fighter Heart podcast. My name is Joe Rizzo, and I'm honored to host your guys' Fighter Heart panel tonight. So, at Fighter Heart, we believe in the power of the human spirit. You know, it's easy to give up when life's hard, when the odds are stacked against you, when the pain feels, unbearable, and when the path forward is anything but clear. It's easy to say, I can't do it. But Fighter Heart knows better. Fighter Heart's someone who's been to the bottom and refused to stay there. They've faced the unimaginable and found a way to rise stronger than before. Inspired by the German word Kampferherz, which means fighter's heart, this platform was created to celebrate resilience, grit, and the triumph of the human spirit. You're about to hear from people who embody that spirit. Each of them couldn't give up and wouldn't, and they didn't. And tonight, they'll be sharing their story, not just to inspire, but to remind us all that adversity doesn't define who you are, it's how you respond to it. So, without any further ado, let's dive in. I'm going to start. I'm going to let you guys each introduce yourselves, share just a couple minutes about who you are, where you're from, and then give us a little bit of your fighter heart story. So, we could start with Mike whenever you're ready to go. Oh, we lost someone.
Yeah. So my name is Michael Cramer, and before getting diagnosed with this cancer called hepatosplenic T-cell lymphoma, which basically has a 15% chance of survival and typically an 8-month prognosis, I was an athlete. I was a windsurfer on the Olympic development team, and I was a college student. I was a freshman in college. And I remember just for a few months, I was really, really tired. It was the COVID lockdown. We were here in Miami. I wasn't training, I wasn't in school, and I started to develop some fevers and some night sweats, and I really just wasn't feeling like myself. And my whole life, I was an athlete. We were always training, always traveling for competitions, always in the gym, always doing things. And for some reason, during this time, I just couldn't get up in the morning to do my workouts. I felt awful. I was tired. And this feeling just dragged on for a few months. And I remember just my mom and I, we decided in the middle of COVID that we were going to go and see our family pediatrician. At the time, I was 19, so we were still seeing my family doctor. We went there, I did some blood work, and the blood work came back. And a few days later, she called us and told me I needed to meet with a specialist at Nicholas Children's Hospital because something was kind of off. And at the time, I wasn't thinking anything. Honestly, I thought I was maybe anemic or that I even had COVID. And I remember getting to this doctor's office at Nicholas Children's Hospital, and we walk past his office, and it's an oncology office. And at the time, I wasn't even thinking cancer. I was just thinking, I'm going to get some blood work done. He's going to give me some supplements. I'm going to be okay and go back to the gym the next day, and I'll be fine. But the doctor did some blood work of his own. And I remember he asked me to do this test called a bone marrow biopsy. And at the time, I had no idea what a bone marrow biopsy really was. Of course, now I do. And he asked me to do it the next day. So we came in the next day. I did this bone marrow biopsy, and the doctor walks in, and I'm waking up from anesthesia because the bone marrow biopsy, they put you under anesthesia for it when you're at a pediatric hospital because it is kind of an intense procedure. They literally take out part of your bone marrow and test it. And the doctor walks in that I met the day before, and he tells me what I have is treatable, that I have a form of leukemia or lymphoma. And it was this huge shock because 4 years before this, I had lost my father to cancer. And I remember just hearing that word lymphoma again. That was the cancer I lost my father to. So I was shocked. And then after a few weeks of just basically being in and out of the hospital, doing tests, getting blood transfusions, I was officially diagnosed with hepatosplenic T-cell lymphoma. And my doctor told me I had to go through 2 to 6 rounds of chemotherapy and then a bone marrow transplant if I wanted to survive. I went through over 3 months of very intense chemo, and then I had my bone marrow transplant October 27th of 2020. I was hospitalized for nearly 6 weeks for this bone marrow transplant. And after the bone marrow transplant, I was thankfully in remission. But just a few days later, I developed a condition called graft versus host disease that I still live with to this day. I'm still in treatment for this disease called graft versus host disease, and thankfully my cancer's in remission. But I've been through almost 5 years of countless treatments, different trials. I'm even going to be starting a clinical trial in a few weeks for my disease because it just hasn't gotten better at this point. And I've just been through a lot. And right now, I am a speaker, I'm an advocate. I do social media, I have a podcast with my mom, and she has been there with me through everything. So I'm just super blessed. Shout out to my mom. Like literally every time I was hospitalized, and even now when I go to treatment, she's there with me. So my mom is definitely one of the reasons why I have my fighter heart and why I won't give up on this journey. So that's a little bit about me.
Nah, insane story, man. What did you say the name of the disease you have now is called?
It's called graft versus host disease. It happens after a bone marrow transplant sometimes when the donors, because you get donor stem cells infused into you, and they kind of recognize your body as foreign. So it's affecting my skin, my liver, my mouth, and my stomach the most right now.
Is it like a like what is it? It just affects like it breaks them down, your liver and your
Yeah, it starts attacking your organs and does damage to them. So basically, I have to take immunosuppressants. It's like having an overactive immune system. It's like an autoimmune disease in a sort of way. So I do like immunosuppressive treatments and therapies that hopefully over the course of the next few years the disease will go away. But unfortunately, the damage to my body is something that sometimes just can't be recovered. But we'll see. There's always hope for new treatments and future therapies and options. So we just keep going.
For sure, man. We know you'll keep fighting. Um,
Yes.
all right, can we move on to Brian? You want to give us your little brief rundown here? Let me unmute you. There you go.
Yeah, definitely. So my name is Brian Bell. I am originally from Birmingham, Alabama, but currently I'm living in Bay Area, California right now. I lost my leg, my right leg, when I was a kid. Growing up in Birmingham, our neighborhood is basically surrounded by like train tracks, being kind of an industrial area and having a lot of those companies that kind of load and unload raw materials on using trains. So one of the days, the trains was on the track for an extended period of time, way longer than it normally is, and I just got tired of waiting. So I thought it'd be a brilliant idea to climb the train to get to the other side while it was stopped. Once I got to the other side, it started moving and jolting a little bit, and I kind of lost my footing a bit and fell and kind of caught my leg underneath the train and ran over it. I was fortunate enough to only have catch one leg. Usually, people in train accident situations, they lose both their legs. So I was very fortunate in that regards of losing one. I was able to kind of hop away from the train a little bit, with my leg kind of dangling a bit from the rest of my leg. And then I was able to call because I was with my friends at the time and my younger brother, and I was able to call and let them know that my leg got run over by the train to go call for help, um, all that stuff. And it was, of course, people around in the houses right by the train that saw as well. But I was able to get to the hospital in time. Weren't able to recover the leg because it was beyond, fixing. So they actually chopped it off and kind of sewed it back up. And then once I woke up, I realized my leg was gone. But they also told me that it was a chance of walking again if I put in the work through rehab, through rehabilitation exercises that they gave me to potentially get a prosthetic to get back up and walking again. So I did all the necessary rehab exercises, techniques that it gave me to kind of um, re-improve the area, rebuild the muscle that was lost. They also gave me the opportunity to go to a big Shriners Hospital in Greenville, Carolina, or South Carolina. They really focused on people missing limbs and other defects. I was able to kind of get fitted for a prosthetic leg. And I was fortunate enough to have Strong's Hospital pay for those trips and drive from Birmingham, Alabama up to Greenville, South Carolina to get fitted for a prosthetic and to get a lot of very expert opinions and insight on getting back on my feet and getting a working prosthetic. And I was fortunate enough to get back on my feet, get a working prosthetic. and then go back to school like a year later on a prosthetic. And that kind of stems to the hard work that I put into kind of getting back on my feet. And then like a couple years later after that, I was just such a big avid sports person and athlete. So I decided it'd be a great idea to play middle school football on my prosthetic. So I did that for a year, especially because my friends were doing it as well. And I wanted to not be excluded from the fun. So I did that. Very, very challenging, but I'll definitely do it again. Was able to kind of get and gain a lot of experience from it, a lot of kind of work ethic from it, of what my limitations were, what I can improve on. But that's kind of stemmed me finding wheelchair basketball, which is what I've been doing for the past 22, 23 years. And kind of been my passion since then and been able to kind of thrive because of that. Been able to travel across the country, go to university at the University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana because of it, even live overseas in Europe and also represent the country at the Paralympics 3 times so far.
And you guys are killing it, right?
As of right now, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. And you're going back in 2028?
that's the plan.
Oh yeah, awesome, man. Well, incredible story as well. Let's go to John and give us your rundown here, and then we'll get into some questions. Let me just unmute you here.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right. So my name is Jonathan Lopez. Served in the United States Army. I pretty much have everything mapped out, everything that I wanted to do. I was accomplishing. Finished infantry school, went to airborne training. Following that, Ranger indoctrination program, got to my unit where I became a sniper. Completed some more schools and went on deployment. Came back home and it was my time to go to selection. I was actually in the list for Special Forces Assessment and Selection. And 1 week after coming back to my base, like I go through all these, like the most rigorous training that the Army has, complete deployments, nothing. 1 week after coming back to my base, I think 4 days after, I was leaving the base and I was hit by a drunk driver in the Autobahn. I was involved in a head-on collision, so it was a pretty gnarly accident. As a result, I had a traumatic amputation, which means I lost my arm on impact, and I broke my leg in 7 different parts, including an open fracture. Femur came out of the skin. I got pretty much metal in a lot of places on my body. I learned through the years that, like, honestly, my challenge wasn't the injury itself, because it just wasn't, like injury, as you can see, like everything that I do today it hasn't really stopped me. The thing that was hard for me was losing my career. The circumstances of how it happened was probably the hardest thing to overcome. I have taken, as I said, I was a paratrooper, so I have taken on very high risk jobs, and I knew that any of those things could either injure or kill me one day. It just wasn't supposed to be because somebody decided to go out, drinking and driving. Like I spent 2 years in the hospital where I underwent countless surgeries, like just naming from bone grafts, like I can't even remember. But ever since, like that was in the past. Ever since I went through a dark period trying to find myself, because I really, at the beginning, I didn't identify myself as a veteran. Circumstances of what happened to me, I just thought I didn't fall in the same category. And years later, I reconnected. I've been working with nonprofits for about 12 years right now. I ran programs for obstacle course racing. I was the lead for the Honor Series with Spartan, which is a obstacle course race series around military bases in the US. We use it to help people who had been injured to overcome obstacles. Became a program manager for skydiving, and it's so funny, dude. Like I was thinking about it earlier. I haven't applied for a job in the past 15 years, and somehow I keep creating jobs for me. Like I was thinking about this quote that I love by Alan Watts. He always says, what would you do if money was no object? you know, go do
Um,
that, become the best, don't worry about the money. Money will come. And I was thinking about that earlier today because I haven't applied for a job in 15 years. I just do exactly what I like to do. And somehow I create these positions, and I'm very fortunate to do that. Currently, the last thing that we did was in the heat of COVID, we really had a spike on veteran suicide. It was huge, when people were isolated, staying at home, especially so many people are dealing with PTSD, survivor guilt, all this stuff. We had a spike on suicide. And a friend of mine, he was telling me about the benefits of archery. I had just pretty much just started shooting in 2019. It was recreational. It was just something to do in the backyard. And he was telling me about the benefits of archery to help veterans. So we created a program for veterans to get into archery, teaching them how to hunt, do all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, like the program grew. He ended up purchasing a shop in Tucson, Arizona. I think I was living in Florida at the time, or in California. I think I was already in California. And here I made it to Arizona, where right now I'm currently an archery coach. We're still supporting like all type of veterans programs, hunts, and just keeping people out there.
that's awesome, man. Are you good?
Archery, pretty good.
Yeah, I see. Is that where you are now? Because your background's interesting. You got like a dartboard, you got some big dice up there.
Oh yeah, those are the targets. That's the storage room. I'm in the back.
Uh,
I'm at the shop, and those are a bunch of arrows. I'm currently at work right now. Yeah,
yeah, that's awesome,
just
man.
took an hour off to. I didn't want to miss this.
No, we appreciate you being here, man. So we're going to transition here to some, big questions that we like to ask sometimes. And if each of you could, I'm going to unmute all of you, and then if each of you could kind of give your personal answer for each and kind of relate it to your story. We'll start off with what do you think having a fighter heart means to each of you? Like, what does that actually mean to you? Mike, you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, I think having a fighter heart just means, specifically to me, it means not giving up when things get hard. Because for me, I realized that my life is never going to be easy. I'm going to live with this disease for several years, possibly even the rest of my life. But understanding that I choose to live every day and I choose to move forward and continue my treatments no matter what, understand that's not just for me. I'm here for my family as well. I've known a lot of people who have passed away from cancer, a lot of people who didn't want to go through with the treatments because it's too much. And for me, sometimes there was a point where I felt like that. There was a point where it all became too much and I wanted to give up. But, I had that support around me and that love, and it just got me through that tough time. And having a fighter heart really just is about not allowing yourself to be victimized by your situation as well. It's always something that I talk about. It's like when I was diagnosed with cancer, I had a choice. I could have felt bad for myself, felt sorry for myself, but I didn't. I was in the hospital lifting weights, walking the hospital halls, doing everything I could to stay active, stay fit, and get through it. And even now, with my disease, I had to get a total knee replacement. I have this thing called necrosis in my elbows and my knees. So it makes it really hard for me to be physically active and do the things I love. But I've been back to surfing a little bit and the gym because I found ways to modify my life and modify my workouts. And it's just about adapting to your situation, no matter what it is you are going through. You can always find something to do. And I'm looking here at Brian, and what he does with his body is just absolutely amazing. And that's the definition of not allowing yourself to be a victim, because other people in our scenarios probably would just give up and not do the things that we've done. But it's about having that fighter heart, that will to keep going, that really gets you places.
Awesome. What about you, John? What does being a fighter heart mean to you?
Fighter heart, man. For me, having a fighter heart is having the courage to pursue your purpose. I hear Michael talking about it, right? And he mentioned so much his mother. My case was the kids, right? You have to redefine your purpose, not giving up.
Oh, sorry, someone joined and
Yeah,
then they muted themselves. Sorry, John, continue.
yeah, just having the courage to keep going, like quitting is always the easiest choice. And I personally have been guilty for it. Um, I attempted suicide in 2010. I was just fed up with everything. Through working through nonprofits, said like suicide is a really big problem in our community. I have seen that that's the easiest way, and that's actually is putting the load in everybody else. Having a fire heart is like pursuing your purpose, the ones that you love, is going to be have encouragement.
Say the end. Have encouragement. What did you say?
Courage, having the
Oh,
courage to keep
courage.
going. Mhm.
Courage. For sure, man. Brian, what about you? Oops, sorry. I hit
My
it.
fighter heart would be kind of similar to what Michael and Jonathan were saying. It's just embracing change. It's not change that you know, want to happen, but being able to kind of see what that change is and kind of maximize the possibilities out of it. For me personally, most people in my cases, after something traumatic like that happens, they get down on themselves, especially, being older and getting an injury. Like you're used to, doing things a certain way, and then all of a sudden have it change. It's hard to kind of get past that moment, but I also had a great support network. My mom, my friends, even the doctors and nurses in the hospital I was at, gave me a lot of hope, aspirations to get back on my feet, literally, with a prosthetic. So I kind of took that and made it my goal as to put my 100% effort into the rehab exercises to be able to be fitted for a prosthetic. So that way it's less time in that window to kind of get back on my feet. And then once I do get back on my feet, maximize, all my chances, all my opportunities, and not letting me having a prosthetic hold me back rather than kind of push the envelope. Like I said, playing middle school football just because I wanted to, even though it's probably not the best idea, once getting hit and then your prosthetic kind of flying off. Not the best idea, but again, being an athlete, being a person that just love being active, I wanted to do that, especially with my friends and have that memory. It just took taking those times to kind of find the good in kind of hard times, and kind of maximize and kind of propel from there.
For sure, man. You guys, you each had something similar, but you all had your own little spin on it there. So Zimri, I hope I'm saying this right. Zimri Salas has a question, and it's one of mine also. So I'll expand on it. He says, "What motivates you guys? What motivated you in the past, and then what motivates you now? Is it the same thing, or some has it changed over the years?" We'll start with John this time. You just got to unmute yourself, John. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So my motivation, I know it sounds pretty selfish and everything, but like I call it the immortality project, right? My motivation is to the time that we spend here, right? Like we all want that, We all want our names to live, like I want to make changes. I want, like I don't care, like, 20 years from now, right now, like I'm teaching archery to kids. 20 years from now, one of these kids goes into their first hunt and goes like, yeah, I remember that guy that taught me how to, you know? And it is pretty impressive because I say I shoot with a mouth tap, I shoot a pretty high poundage bow and everything. And it's pretty helpful because like everybody that comes in here, come like, oh, I have a shoulder injury, I have whatever. I'm like, listen, we can figure it out. There's always a way to get it. So like my motivation has always been to make a change, to like honestly, like to do something that will last, longer than I last on the earth.
Awesome. And that's what it's always been, you said, right? Hasn't
Mhm.
changed. Beautiful. Mike, what do you got for us? What's your motivation, past and present?
Yeah, so in the past, when I was diagnosed with cancer, my first motivation to get through it was I want to surf again. I want to get back to windsurfing. I want to go back to college and live my life again. And I was just willing to do any treatment just so I could be healthy again. But then when I went through cancer and I went through this disease and I got through that low point, and at one point I even tried to take my own life, similar to Jonathan. And going to that low point and surviving that made me realize that I don't want anyone to ever go through what I went through. Of course, people are going to go through it. I can't stop that. But I want to do my best now to motivate people and show them that there's life after cancer, after chronic diseases, after depression, after all this stuff, and to show them that it's not worth trying to take your own life, because there's so much beauty this world has to offer, even though there is so much pain. So I just think my purpose now is just to help others and show them the way. I feel like I wouldn't go through this for myself. It was to show others that you can get through this as well.
Like people with similar situations, right? For sure.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay,
I
Al,
have a
question.
I I have a question for my I know how you feel about chronic diseases and mystery because I'm also dealing with mystery neurological diseases, mystery neurological symptoms right now, and I know how I don't have cancer, but I know what it's like to have a chronic disease and have an autoimmune disease. That's still a mystery. So I'm here for you. I get it. And my advice for you is keep on pushing forward and never give
Thank
up.
you. Thank you. You too. Thank you for the advice. I
Awesome,
appreciate
Al.
that.
Al, how about I come back to you? I'm going to ask a few more questions and then you could share your story at the end because you got an awesome story too.
Thank you.
All right, no problem. Let me get through these and I'll come back to you, man. And then Brian, what motivates you, past and present?
I would say past that motivated me was just kind of getting back to like kind of normal things that I did back when I was a kid. That be, just kind of going to school normally, not doing homeschool, doing sports with my friends. That kind of motivated me early on. Just kind of getting back to my normal routine of what I consider normal. And then now, what kind of motivates me would be kind of giving back and kind of mentoring like the next generation or like up and coming athletes, especially people who have maybe have had similar situation of like getting injured, and then trying to like figure out things later down the road and just kind of overcoming some of those hurdles that they might have. And then just giving my experience of what I dealt with back then, and having them kind of transition past that point faster. And then just also on the athletic side, just giving my input in terms of like wheelchair basketball, and all my accomplishments, just giving back what I've accomplished, all the struggles, challenges I've done, to help them along their athletic journey.
I'm sorry, my cat's bugging out over here.
Wants to join the call.
Yeah, you meowed right into it. But awesome, man. So let me go through another one here. So specific people in your past and maybe even now that were inspirations to you, maybe when you were going through your fight, and then do you have any inspirations right now? Mike, you want to start?
Sure, yeah. I mean, when I was diagnosed with cancer, my inspiration was my dad. He passed away from cancer, and one thing that he needed was a bone marrow transplant once his cancer relapsed before he passed away. So when I heard that I had lymphoma and that I had to get a bone marrow transplant, I immediately thought of my father. And the thing is, I was obviously a lot younger, and I just had a better chance at surviving, I thought. So I knew that I could get through this and that I was doing this for him. And that's pretty much that is what my motivation was back then. And I think my motivation now is obviously still my father, and it still is my family. I think that going through this disease, my brother, my sister, my mom, they watched, their husband, my dad pass away. So, you know, them seeing me go through cancer and now live with this disease, it hasn't been easy for them either. And I think that by me showing that I'm continuing on and continuing my treatments and still going, it gives them hope that I'm doing well, and it keeps our family together. And to me, it's just about keeping our family together, and all the love that we've had over the years it motivates me to keep going, and seeing my brother, my sister, my mom still alive, and my grandma as well. So it's just the simple things that keep me going, honestly.
Awesome, man. How about you, John? Can you unmute? Yeah.
Yes, no, I'm good. Uh, well, Jesus, there have been quite a few people that have inspired me in my life, and some that stand out right now that I'm gonna put three people. They're They just mean so much to me. One of them is Command Sergeant Major Eric Smith. He passed away in 2020. Um, Jeff Farmer and Sergeant First Class Tito Pinheiro, which his code sign was Unbreakable. It's a guy with 7 Purple Hearts. And all these guys, sometimes, because we all have doubts, we all have doubts. Can I do this or can I do the can I not do it? They always do, like they were always behind my back. Like they have zero doubts about me. Like, yeah, you can totally do that. And I was like, my inspiration has been those around me that believe in me when I didn't. And I'm like, just the love for them is kind of like, can't let them down. It's the
Yeah.
same thing, like, like when your kids, when your parents believe that you can do these, that that you're capable of so much more. I just don't want to disappoint them. Like, if you think I can do it, I guess, I'm gonna take your word. Even though I think I can't, I'm gonna go for it.
Yeah, they convince you that you can do it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Brian, what do you got for us?
Yeah, I would say my early on ball motivators were probably number one, my mom. Especially then she was like a single parent, taking care of me and my younger brother. So just that alone, like how much sacrifice she's done, just to kind of raise us while also, working multiple jobs, was just tremendous to see, and like the work ethic she put in to kind of making sure that we were comfortable. There was still food on the table all the time, was just amazing. And I kind of took that with me, before I got hurt, and even more so after I got hurt, just making sure I capitalized on opportunities that I was given, and just kind of making the best out of it. And then once I got into widget basketball, probably my very first coach was kind of the beginning motivation to kind of help my athletic journey. Um, just him believing in me and seeing something that I didn't see as of yet, and just kind of motivating and pushing me to kind of constantly improve, towards my athletic journey towards the end now.
You still in touch with him, your coach?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I don't see him as much, but he's in California, so I've been seeing him maybe like once or twice a year, and then I stay in contact with him a couple times a year.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so let's move on to this one. Was there a point in either of y'all's when you were going through it, like your fight, when you had, like a eureka kind of moment, like a sudden shift in your mindset, or change in your beliefs that kind of like it was like a switch going off, like I'm just gonna fight as hard as I can. Can we start with you? We haven't started with Brian yet. We'll start with you.
Okay. Let's see. I would say that switch would be probably during the process of like getting fitted for a prosthetic, I would say. Because you kind of go through a lot of different trials of like getting fitted for like the mold of the prosthetic, and then trying on like a prototype, and then sitting in front of doctors to make sure that it's aligned, and then coming back later to try on like the kind of um pre-finished product, and then after that the finished product. I would say right around that was kind of the peak that like I can get back to like my normal, what I consider normal of like, going to school, running up and down, the field with friends, playing that I played before I got injured. Um, I got that prosthetic. Of course, it was a challenge once I got the hang of it, rewalking all that. It was, yeah, it was seemed even easier. It was kind of hard to say, but even easier to kind of do some of the sports related activities that I was doing. It's probably because I was just older, but it was just an amazing feeling to kind of get back into sports and running around and just doing all those things that I did before I got injured, but on a prosthetic.
Got you. Awesome. John, how about you? You ever have like a light switch moment?
Let me see. Am I live?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was looking for the unmute button. Dude, I think the biggest eureka moment that I had in my life, Michael was talking about it earlier, about the victim mentality, right? Even when I started the podcast with you today, one of the first things that I told you, the hardest thing about my accident was the circumstances, right? I felt that somebody else had taken, like, I guess their actions have changed my life. And for the longest, I was always the victim of a drunk driver. And dude, like I switched into that, and I was like, imagine if it was the other way around. Imagine if I was the one that would have caused an accident for somebody else and changed their life. Like, fuck, I don't want to live with that. So like in this case, like this is so much better. Like, like when I give up being a victim of somebody else, and you know what, it happens. I actually, like, I wish that was a few years back. So never got in touch with the person that caused it. That happened in Germany. But like, I wish one day, and I said, I wish one day he could see me, and see that I'm doing okay and all the great things that I'm doing with my life, because I cannot imagine what that person is going through. That has to be so much, like, so much worse than actually what I ever went through. Like, having to go back home and thinking about, like, holy crap, I destroyed somebody's life. And it's the same thing when it comes to, like, like illnesses or whatever. Like, I think we're handling what we can, and it's so much better than the other way around. Imagine a loved one is the one that was going through an illness or something. I'd rather everything that I went through, and honestly, it's something that I've been finally been able to say the last couple of years. It honestly made my life so much better and so much interesting. Like, I truly love what I do every day, like helping other ones, and like, hate the word, but, like, being like a motivator to other people to not quit, not quit. Like, it's honestly, like, it was a small price to pay to live this amazing life. So the moment that I stopped feeling like a victim and embraced the circumstances of what happened and ran with it, I think that was my eureka moment.
That's awesome. I could tell you like Alan Watts. I love Alan Watts. You sound
Yeah.
like you took a lot of them in there. Um, all right, let's go to Mike. What about you?
Yeah, I feel like I had that moment like a little over a year ago when I had my total knee replacement. Because when I was diagnosed with the chronic disease that I live with now in 2021, I honestly thought I could never surf. I could never go to the gym again. I could never be active because I had this thing called necrosis in my elbows and my knees, and it's painful and it's hard. And I couldn't do the things I used to do. And I thought that I was going to be stuck this way forever and I wasn't going to be active again. But by slowly, working on myself and not allowing myself to be a victim and kind of just slowly trying things out, I kind of was realized I could do so much more than I thought. And I slowly built up strength around my muscles and around my joints, and I started to get stronger again. I realized that I can do so much more with this chronic disease than I ever thought I could. Like I started surfing again in August, and I've been surfing more, which has been absolutely amazing. I've been back in the gym and lifting light weights. I can't lift too heavy because of my elbows, but I literally need an elbow replacement, but I'm still lifting weights and doing all these things. And I think that mindset change just came when I started like getting out of my comfort zone and pushing myself and seeing, oh, is this too painful? Maybe I can't do this, but I can modify it to do it this way. So again, it's just having that mindset that you just have to go out there and adapt your situation and go and try new things and see what works and what doesn't and just move forward and never give up. Because if I didn't have this huge risky knee replacement surgery, I probably wouldn't be where I was today, being as physically active as I am now. So it just takes going out of your comfort zone to get to a good place. And that was the huge mindset shift that I had really like a year ago.
Awesome, man. You got Al clapping for you over here. That's
Oh yeah,
awesome.
that's my boy.
Actually, have a question for Mike about for me
Oh,
regarding
okay.
me regarding me. Um, Mike, I deal with depression too. I don't know if you do, but how do you now? I know you've been through cancer and stuff, and I've been through a lot of stuff too. And I just need some advice from the group. How does everybody deal? You know, everybody suffers from mental health regardless. Um, how did you boost yourself up? Did you ever felt very down? And how did you boost yourself up when you were in the like down in the dumps? You have an inspirational story.
Yeah, I mean for me,
That, does that
I
make
was
sense? What I'm
yeah, that
saying?
makes perfect sense. I was in the hospital a lot, and actually they had therapists in the hospital, and I talked a lot to them. And getting myself out of the dark place was not an easy process when I went through that deep dark depression. It took months, even years. I'm still working on it, but it's a daily practice. My mom and I always talk about it. It's something you work on every single day of your life. You just have to keep striving to be better. And one thing that's helped me a lot is just trying to go outside every day a little bit, look at the nature, go for walks, be physically active, meditate. All these things have helped me a lot just to clear my mind. And also, if you have like good friends you can hang out with and just laugh, because
Yeah, that's hard.
yeah.
Yeah. By any chance, were you on special books and special kits?
Was I what?
Were you on that podcast called Special Books, Special Kits? I
No, I
think
don't think so.
I don't know. I thought I recognized you.
Uh,
So that was,
what about you other two, Brian and John? Like, have you guys, when you guys have depressive moments, we've all had them. Like, how do you get out of it? Do you have like a routine? Staying in a routine, a lot of people say helps.
that was a good question.
Brian, you want to go?
Sure, I go. It's kind of similar to Michael, kind of relying on family and support, specifically like friends as well, to kind of help me out. That's definitely what I leaned on early on after like my injury just happened, was kind of leaning on family, friends that came to visit me in the hospital. And I kind of to this day, kind of what I kind of rely on. It's like I rely on my wife to help me if I'm struggling with certain situations, friends to kind of take my mind off stressful things or situations, laugh, yeah, getting outside and just kind of being with nature is also helpful. I do meditate as well, a couple minutes, especially at the beginning of the day to kind of set the day off right. But yeah, it's usually those type of practices I use for when I'm like down.
What is meditation for you? Is that like sitting there in silence with your eyes closed? Is that what you think of it as?
Yeah, kind of like that. I use several types, like some specifically like just throughout the day, and then some more specific to sports. But like the ones that I just use throughout the day, just more kind of being in silence or when you wake up to kind of I don't know, kind of center yourself. Because most of the times, like you have a lot of things coming at you. You're first when you wake up, you have like, oh, what I have to do today, this type of that. But like spending that quick couple of minutes to kind of just free your mind and then kind of set you up to like set, things in a, orderly manner going through the day. And then for like sports wide side of it is more just visualization, I would say. Kind of visualizing yourself doing particular like exercises or particular movements or playing a game the way you normally would play it. So then when it happens, it's not surprising. It comes naturally. Also visualizing what could happen. So then it's not a surprise when it does happen. A lot of those practices I use for competing.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of athletes say like when they're actually competing, that's a form of meditation for them where, you're in flow state,
Mhm.
it's all you're thinking about is the game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. How about you, John? Do you have any practices?
I do, and I'm gonna try to keep it light. So because this will be a whole rabbit hole that we go down to. But I'm gonna tell you first. When I first lost my arm, to say like I was put in a medical induced coma because of the amount of surgeries for 13 days, and I really honestly don't remember the first couple of weeks. One of my first memories was the chaplain standing by. Chaplain is what we call the priest in the military. So the chaplain was standing by my bed. I guess it's army protocol, you know. He's the one that broke down the news about me losing my arm and possibly amputated my leg. So he started telling me a story about, I forgot the name of the guy, Joa, something like that. That God little by little was taking everything away from him. Like he had killed the crops and, taking, his cattle and all the stuff, everything to test his faith, and he remained faithful. So he's telling me this story while I'm in probably 10,000 milligrams of morphine. So I'm like kind of like looking at the story. So the story concludes on them uncovering me to show me that I have lost my arm. I was possibly going to lose my leg. And that moment pivoted for me everything about faith, because I really thought that how can I God do this? So like I don't want anything to do with this person. But anyways, I went, as I said, like I went through a dark phase and many years of just driven by, I mean, honestly, by hate. Like, like I ran my couple of first marathons, like not because I wanted to do it. It was because I was told I couldn't walk again. So I'm like, I'm gonna show you who can walk. Um, so what do I do right now as far as depression? To say this is another rabbit hole, but I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Last 4 years or so, I've been practicing plant medicine. I take veterans down to Mexico for psychedelic retreats, and it has reconnected me with the faith, with something much bigger than that just me, the universe. Um, just like similar to what they talk about is meditation, journaling. Is something that I have learned, by actually sitting in the plants and actually changing my perspective of life. I meditate, just like just like Brian said, like I just whatever is troubling me, combine those two words on YouTube, and you can put meditation for clarity, meditation for grounding, meditation for acceptance, or for whatever it is. And I sit down and I meditate. Journaling is such an important tool because it's a way for me to, like, honestly, like, express what I have to say in a way that maybe I don't have to try to find the right words to explain it to somebody else, because I'm just writing it for me. And it's so great to go back into it, because it's like one of those things, like everybody tells you, like, you create these problems, and like one of the first rule about a problem, right, is think about it. Is this going to matter in 3 years, in 5 years, or in 10, or is this just temporary? And you think right now is the end of the world. So like journaling is so cool because like you put some of your troubles or your thoughts in there. And like I constantly go back pages and pages and I read the stuff, and then you laugh. You're like, this wasn't that big of a deal. Or hey, I was able to accomplish this. So
No.
that has been honestly like my tool for mental health. I'm honestly in such a beautiful place.
For 4 years, you've been journaling, or longer than that?
Yeah, for years now.
So it was around the same time you started the retreats.
Yeah, when I start with the retreats, it's very important. Like they ask you to like practice meditation and also like journaling, because you're gonna have all these visions and all these things. And like honestly, I was talking about it with my girlfriend the other day. There is nothing outside of you. Like, this is like everything that you have ever experienced, everything that you have ever read or ever lived, you're gonna look at it from a different perspective. So you just journal like what you saw and what it means. And like it's different. It's so good because sometimes I journal. I don't know. I just gotta make it a habit. It's kind of like what writers do. You sit down and I don't know what I'm gonna write about, but you sit down and start writing. And next thing you know, you wrote 2 pages, and a week later you write something else, and it's just little pieces to the puzzle that are gonna come together.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, we don't have to go down the rabbit hole, but uh, what you got? Was it like ayahuasca retreat?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's awesome. Like my sister did that in Peru. All right. I guess Al left, but I'm pretty sure you guys answered the question there. Um, what role has community, friendship, support? How big of a role has that all played for you in your comeback stories? Brian, you want to go?
Yeah, I can go. Been extremely, extremely important in my journey. Like I said, without support early on, I feel like I would not have made like the strides like immediately as I made. So I would say just, my mom, my grandma, my friends, extended family that came to visit me in the hospital, just constantly getting me the motivation to kind of get back on my feet, was amazing. I still remember to this day, like some of the, jokes they were telling me, while I was in hospital, like jabbing at me, like, so you're gonna ever, stop being, like a lazy bum and get out of bed, like all those type of stuff. They, just playful jokes to kind of get me, in a like a lighthearted mood, was amazing. Because it just motivated me. Like, yeah, I am kind of tired of sitting in this bed. So I will, do a little bit extra at rehab today, like those type of things, to help with, the recovery process. So I would say that, yeah, just family, community in general, like-minded people who've gone through similar, accidents or just have the disability in general. Just learning some of the things that they've overcome, that might even be different, but just knowing the place that they've, had challenges growing up with, was, tremendous, and just being able to kind of be with them, commune with them with certain aspects, of their life, has been, tremendous and amazing, and has helped mold me to have more of an open mind in a lot of different aspects of people, disabilities, all things of that nature.
Awesome, man. Mike, I'm pretty sure I know your answer here. Your family plays a pretty big role in your life, right?
Yeah, definitely. It was so important. My mom, like single mom, when I was diagnosed with cancer, and we had so much love and so much support that really got us through that time when she couldn't work a lot, when I was admitted to the hospital for like a month and a half, then even I was admitted for 5 months at one point, and she was with me through it all. So, just been so blessed to have the community we have down here in Miami, and the people and the family and our friends that have supported me since day one. And like, we made a whole community of people basically on social media, and just from connections from my mom's work that she has done her whole life. So we've just known so many people that have pitched in and helped us over the years because we really needed the help. And, we still sort of do with everything I'm going through with my treatments, but just been so, so blessed, to have my mom, my grandma, and everyone else that's been around me.
Awesome. Mike, and then I have a follow-up question for you guys. You're unmuted. You're good. No, sorry, John, not Mike.
Mhm. Dude, I mean, just like everybody in this podcast, I think community plays a huge role. If not, we wouldn't be here, right? Um, I think the community and the community that we created, every single one of us right here, I hear Michael talking about it, I hear Brian talking about it, right? About being of inspirations to other ones. So like, dude, like I get those messages all the time about like, like, well, my son just lost use of an arm, and I see you doing this and doing that. So like it's a huge motivation. It's like sometimes, because as I said, like we're still going to go through these bad days, right? So it's like that motivation of like, you know what? Can't quit. Somebody's looking up to me, and if I quit, they might quit. So
Yeah, so you got to be there. So that leads
mhm.
to my follow-up question. So has all this support that you guys have had from family and community changed how you show up for other people now? Brian, yeah, sorry, Brian.
Yeah, I would say it does. It's kind of why one of the main reasons why I want to that I love talking to other kids, especially, up and coming kids, just recently injured kids, because they are probably going through a lot of hard things, like not wanting to, be around organized sports because they don't want to, seem different, or even just the things of like being at school and like kind of being the only person with a disability. But that's some of the things I dealt with, like going to a school and being the only person with a disability in the school. So all those different types of aspects. I love, talking to kids. I love talking to their parents about just being helpful to their kid. Because sometimes you do have like helicopter parents that doesn't really help the situation at times, and most of the time for kids with disabilities, because it kind of sets them up for failure down the road. Because they need to, have a little bit of kind of pushback from society, because society is not going to be all sunshine and rainbows. So they need to learn from that. Of course, have people like next to them that's supportive and helpful in that situation, but they need to be put in places that that have adversity, that I can learn from that. So just giving back that knowledge, because not all kids coming up have that type of support or have that type of people with experience that they can readily talk to. So that's why I love when I go to like basketball camps that have not basketball camps, basketball tournaments that have like younger kids coming up, because they see you on TV, so they get a chance to actually talk to you, ask questions, and I love that kind of interaction of try to give back to the next generation to kind of help them along their journey a lot more. Because I had that when I was coming up in my journey. I had coaches, I had players, I had mentors and people I looked up to. So I just kind of want to have that as well. And that's kind of what led me to kind of do that, was the family early on that gave me that support, friends that gave me that support. And that's what I want to do with the next people that's kind of in a similar situation, and not necessarily with disability, but just kids in general who may be struggling in school. I'm always open to talk and chat about things.
Yeah, it's like you're paying it forward, kind of like
Yeah,
you got the
exactly.
help now. You're paying it forward. How about you, John? Has your Fighter Heart story affected how you treat other people? Like, was it different before?
Dude, absolutely, and you just took the words out of my mouth. It's about paying it forward because I am part of a generation that is very lucky. And when I say a generation that is very lucky, as a veteran today in the United States, it couldn't be better. Like I forgot who said this, but if you're gonna be missing a limb, better be as right now a veteran in the U.S. It's like I hear Brian talking about his struggles of getting a prosthetic leg, and I'm like, I don't understand. You just go to a second floor and pick up two, right? Because like in the military, like we have all these resources. And when I say I'm part of a lucky generation, this didn't come without a price. If you go back one generation, the guys that came back from Vietnam, they didn't have these. Like they were treated like crap, and like they didn't have half of the resources. So now that we do, you know, for me, it's about paying it forward because there is so many people out there that are deserving of the help and they don't get it. So like we actually like a good group of us, like so was like military, but a good land with inner city groups of kids that don't have these resources. And we have actually traveled to Colombia to run the Bogota Marathon. And what we do out there is like we collect the prosthetics from everybody that we know that just have spare legs or spare arms or whatever. And we donate it because those guys down there, they're not less of a human being, but they don't have the resources. Most of them are amputees because of all the bombs that were left by the cartels and like all the stuff back in Medellin. There's so many people that they don't have the resources. And I think the best way that we can do, with this community is paying it forward. If you have the resources, if you can do something to change someone's life, you have to.
Awesome. It's like you have a responsibility to, right?
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Mike?
Yeah, I totally agree with everything they just said. And for me, I think I try to give back as much as I can. I lead a support group for cancer survivors and cancer patients. I also do some work for an app that is called Cancer Buddy, and it connects cancer patients to other cancer patients and for caregivers as well. So my mom and I, whenever we're asked to speak anywhere, go to any event, we go, we volunteer our time, and we give back to our community as much as we can. And just to my friends as well. I feel like part of it was my good friends who aren't
Oh,
even affected by cancer or any of these issues, just being nice to them and appreciating them because they were there for me. And literally when I was diagnosed, they all shaved their heads with me, so that's something I'll always be grateful they did with me. And it's just giving back as much as I can. We've had so much support, so much love over the years. I think our mission is just to help this community heal as much as we can.
Dude. Al, are you still here?
Hi.
Hey, Al, you want to kind of give us a little bit about your story?
Yeah.
We lost you for
So
a minute. I was going to do it before.
sorry about that. Um. So my name is Al, and I have an inspiring story. I was born 20, 26 or 23 weeks premature. I was trached on a ventilator. I had a feeding tube too. I Doctor said I wouldn't walk, talk, or eat, and here I'm here. I'm here now. I deal with certain medical conditions. I have history health conditions, but I'm still here and I'm still fighting, and I'm supposed to get a service dog down the road, and that is pretty much it. I started a blog post about my life journey too, and that's it.
Hey, awesome, Al. I mean, we've had a long podcast together, me and Al. So if you guys interested in hearing Al's in-depth story, you can go check out that episode. Um, I'm going to leave you pinned, Al, because I'll include you on these last couple of questions. Um, and you could give
Okay.
us your answer too. At this point in all of your lives, how do you personally define success? Let's start with Mike.
Success for me is staying alive and continuing to be here. I think that I went through so much and that's such a grim prognosis that I've realized that goals and stuff, you have to have goals in life to keep you going, of course. but sometimes just being alive and being healthy is the gift, and it's something that we take for granted every single day. And every day that I wake up and I'm alive and I get to go to the gym and I get to do the things I get to do, and even the days I go to treatment, I'm grateful because I know so many people who don't have the opportunities that I have every day and didn't make it as far as I did. So to me, it's just realizing that I'm lucky, I'm blessed, and that I got to do as much as I can to make sure that other people are the same way and just help out as much as I can. And that's success to me.
Awesome. How about you, John?
Um, for me, success is the ability to turn whatever happened to us, whatever negative thing happens to us, into something positive, like Michael was saying, so other ones don't have to go through the same, you know? I already sat in the edge of my bed for a week figuring out how to tie my shoes with one hand, you know? So if I did it, right, maybe I can teach somebody else how to do it. And now all that work actually has meaning. So that
Awesome.
is success.
Yeah, definitely. Brian, how about you? What's success for you?
I would say success for me is basically kind of leaving a place or a person better than where you originally, came in the situation as. So if it's like a kid, I'm talking to him, giving him more knowledge than when he first came up to me. You know, if I'm playing in a specific area or doing something in a specific area, or like terms of volunteering, making sure that I provide the best, resources that I can provide at the time. So it's better off than what I left it. That's basically what I kind of feel like I stem success as. Not necessarily just winning. It's just, being making it better than what you left it. I know the team, like for instance, like Team USA, like we've been successful, but my kind of primary goal, especially like now, is like I just want to leave it better than where we came in as. So if I can do that, that's how I like solidify as being successful, like as my athletic career is that more so than like all the accolades.
Yeah, and it's funny, most people hear success, they think how much money you could make, like I want $1 million, I'm successful. No one's even thought about that. How about you, Al? What's success for you at this point?
Hi, success for me is taking it day by day, and I guess when I look at the goal at the moment, even though finding the golden ticket is hard, but we take it day by day, piece by piece, and life is a journey, and there's always a rainbow at the end of the tunnel, and the darkness will end, and that's how I look at success, because there's always a rainbow at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, man, one day at a time, one foot in front of
Mm-hmm.
the other, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Ashley says, beautiful hearing all of your stories, very inspirational. And you all share your gratitude. She feels grateful. I feel how grateful you all are for your life and the people in your life. Very cool. All right, cool. So we're coming down to the end here. We're going to open it up to questions from everyone listening right now. But we'll end with what's some advice you'd give to someone who's currently in the middle of their fighter heart story right now? Like a little kid, just maybe even your younger self. What's some advice you'd give? John, what do you got for us?
It gets better. I know it's so cliche, but it gets so much better. I mean, this is a hard topic. Like, I think we choose the path, before we come over here. We're doing this for a reason because we're strong enough, and because we're gonna come on the other side much stronger. So just don't quit. Like that's the advice that I always tell my younger self. Don't quit. It gets so much better.
How about you, Brian?
I would say, yeah, to kind of go off Jonathan, I would say, yeah, is you're gonna have hard times, you're gonna have challenges. Um, lean on a support system, a kid that can get through them, but you will, once you get past those challenges, be so much better off for it. Because you accomplish those challenges. Like life is full of them. Don't try not to like dwell on the failures at the times. Just kind of move forward and kind of adjust based off those failures and trying to improve upon that. And then next time around, maybe, you actually accomplish it. But life is full of failures. Is how you kind of learn from them and kind of move past them. It's how you make the most out of it.
Awesome. Mike?
Yeah, pretty much similar to what everyone has said. I think you just have to keep going and find out. I had someone message me today earlier on Instagram who is going through cancer themselves, and they're about to have a bone marrow transplant similar to what I had. And they were asking me, but how do you live with the fear of possibly dying? And I was like, well, it's true when you have something like cancer or a chronic disease, it's more in your face. But the truth is, you just have to keep going and find out how long you're going to live. And that's life. Even now, I have so many uncertainties myself, but I've found that the only way to find out what life has to offer is to be there for it. So you just have to keep going and see what life is going to give you.
Yeah, you don't know what's gonna happen ever. So
That could be great.
yeah, for sure, man. Al, how about you?
I would say, say it again.
What'd you
Say it
say?
again. Say it again. The question.
Some advice you'd give to someone who is currently in the middle of their fighter heart story, something similar to what you went
Um, I would say, like I said the last time I with you, life is a journey, but we have to keep on moving forward. Take it day by day. I don't know if those were the exact words I said,
through.
but uh, that's just life is a journey.
No, keep
Life
it
is
nice
keep
and
it,
simple. It's easy if you just think of it like that, right?
yeah,
Easier said than done, right?
yeah.
All
That's
right,
my
cool.
advice.
Let's open it up. If anyone has any specific questions for any of the panel or in
I
general
do.
to everyone. Oh, you got one, Al. Go for it.
Yeah. I have a question for Mike. For Mike, I have a question for Mike.
Okay. What's your question?
Um, um, how does a person live with a chronic illness? And, how do they stay so? How do you stay so positive? Even like we all have ups and downs. Even me, and I've been through a lot. How do you stay so positive when you know that you have to go through a treatment or a chronic illness? How do you block out that negativity? How do you stay positive?
Yeah, I think staying positive, you're not always positive. You break down then and you pick yourself back up. And that's something I've learned. I've learned that it is okay to be negative sometimes. It's okay to feel sad. I'm not positive all the time, but the majority of the time I try to stay positive. It could be 60-40. It could be 60% of the time you're positive, 40% of the time you're breaking down. As long as you're more positive than you are negative, you're gonna get through it. And that's what
Thank
I've
you.
learned. It's not easy to live with a chronic disease or live with something like you're living with, but it's just about moving forward, like you said, and there's going to be a rainbow at the end of the tunnel, like you said. So you have to look forward to that rainbow, right?
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anyone else have any questions? I know we covered a lot, so maybe we answered them all, but anyone else have anything for us? Oh,
Good time.
we got one
Hey,
from Ed.
Joey. Hi.
What's up?
Yeah, it was a moment of silence now. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you all, for participating here, to being there, to sharing your stories, sharing your experiences, sharing your advice. It's been a pleasure to listen to that, to listen to the conversations, and also, the shared opinions and shared advice that you have for everybody, and not only for the people who suffer from some adversities right now, but also basically for everyone, right? So I don't have a major issues at the moment, but I feel very inspired, by just listening to you guys and hearing your stories and seeing how motivated and inspiring you are and how much you help other people of doing so. And I think, especially the mental side of it is so important. And I think we can, by doing these kind of community sessions, live sessions, we can, have an impact on other people, to get over their adversities and help them being more inspired. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Ed.
Joey, back to you.
Yeah, thanks for if you didn't notice, Ed is the creator of FighterHeart, if you didn't notice the big banner behind his head. But oh, we got a question from, no, not a question from Manny, just a comment. He said, "This is cool. I heard your guys' stories on previous posts, but this is a cool format to talk about these subjects." Yeah, I agree, Manny, for sure. This is a great way. I would love to do this again. But if no one has any more questions, we're gonna end it right there. I think we're all good. So again, thank you guys all for joining us. Thanks for being on the panel. Loved all your stories. And we'd love to talk to you guys again. Everyone else, thanks for listening to another Fighter Heart podcast, this very special panel. We will see you again next week.